we'll watch a short video clip about menus. It's the first one.
My name is Mary Viganis. I teach 7th grade U.S. history at the Queen's School of Inquiry in Flushing, New York.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need your undivided attention for a few minutes, and then we're going to continue working on our learning menus.
The learning menu is a compilation of different activities, specifically differentiating instruction for various different learners while building upon various different literacy skills.
I like it because there's lots of options and you get to work at your own pace, because a lot of times during projects, people often rush you so that you have to finish during a certain time, and this is due this time and this is due that time, but right now you get to work at whatever pace you want.
Just like in a regular restaurant menu, you have different sections where you get to choose an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert, and so the menu has been designed in exactly the same way. The way that you go about completing a learning menu is you choose an appetizer, you work on that. There are different literacy skills that are being addressed for these specific activities.
Well, what else are you doing for session 3?
Once you're done with your appetizer, you walk over to your teacher, they check it. You receive a grade for your appetizer, you move on to your entree.
I'm on section 3. It's the outline, so I'm making everything like short and adding bullet form to make it easier for me.
The entree is pretty much, it provides a deeper understanding of the content. Once they've demonstrated that they can do the work and they've understand and mastered the content, they then have to quiz out of it. How's it going? They can't move on to the next section of the chapter unless they fully complete the quiz. If I'm going to trade with somebody, and your studs are all down me. Isn't that difficult? So what would make it easy for me to transport goods? Look here. What's that blue line that's cut? Not your Once you're done with all the sections, they then have to work on your dessert, which is an overview of the entire chapter.
The learning menu is very helpful because I usually skim read and I don't really pay attention to most of the important parts. So then when I use the learning menu, I get most of the important parts and what I use them as well.
As far as the entrees go, they have the choice of graphic organizers, brochures, timelines, eulogies.
I did a graphic organizer, which is this one right here.
So hopefully some of you will use learning menus as a way of differentiating your lesson plans during internship and student teaching. Again, you can really provide lots of different options for students, including things that they love like technology or any other area of interest that gets them excited and engaged in the lesson that you're presenting. Another option for differentiating lesson plans includes a learning contract. How many of you are familiar with those? With the learning contracts, typically we use these with students who are at benchmark or above, and they're ready to go beyond the core curriculum. And so they have to think about their learning goals related to that content area, what they're going to do to demonstrate that they've actually learned that information or learned something, the materials and resources they will need, and the timeline for completing it, and then how the project will be evaluated. Great thing to do with those really bright kids in the classroom who are ready to go beyond what you've planned. Tiered lesson plans. I want to talk to you a few minutes about tiered lesson plans. So when you think about this, truly think in 3 tiers, 1, 2, 3. And so you can, most people differentiate by using tiered lesson plans by thinking of ability levels. So when you plan your lesson, most of you are thinking about the child who meets benchmark that's average, normal, whatever that is. So your kid who's the typical achiever. And so that's what your lesson plan is geared toward. Those are those students, and they're in the middle. They're that second tier. But what we often fail to do is plan for the students who are beyond that and the students who are below that. So when we tier our lesson plans, one way that we can differentiate our instruction is at the first and third tiers. So that, and you're thinking of Bloom's taxonomy while you're doing this, so that you're going to put tier 1 at that basic knowledge level. They still have to learn the content. We have to teach the Common Core and Essential Standards. That's what it is we do in the classroom. But we can teach it at different levels. So your tier 1 kids are at that basic knowledge level. Whereas your tier 3 kids can go on and they can practice their evaluation, their synthesis, their judging skills. All of those things, you can add that in the third tier. Another way that you can tier your lesson plans is you can think in terms of learning styles. So what some teachers do when they're differentiating their lesson plan, they think about their auditory learners, their visual learners, and their kinesthetic learners. And so when they're thinking through their lesson plan, our visual learners may be reading text. And so the teacher will put a V beside that in her lesson plan, while the auditory learners may be listening to the same text on a CD. And so they put an A beside that. And the kinesthetic learners, who knows what they're doing? They're jumping around, I guess. They have to also, while they're reading, they are also responding to the information, talking about the information with their peers, getting up and moving. And the final way that you can use tiered activities is to think of interest levels. And one thing that you want to do, and we talk about this in a lot of my courses, you've got to form personal connections with your students. That does not mean that you are friends with your students. But you need to know about them because that will engage them in your learning. Lots of the little boys like to play baseball. They live, sleep, eat, breathe baseball. And you may be teaching a book called Princess Peepers that they have no interest in. But if you can work in something about baseball, they're there. So you can also differentiate your lesson plans by thinking about interest that the kids have. SpongeBob. Watch an episode of SpongeBob. Incorporate SpongeBob in your lesson plans. Anything that you can do, again, to get them engaged. Get them interested in what it is you're doing. And I have Great. So I have a really good website. It has, I think, grades kindergarten through, I think 12th grade, and it shows you examples for each of the grade levels in math, social studies, and language arts, how to differentiate interest levels, how to differentiate by looking at ability levels, for readiness skills, and then also learning styles. So I will send that link to you somehow. Get it posted. Edmodo, guess would work.
There it is.
So, Professor Lynn, if you'll just scroll down, so you can see that there's some great examples that are provided for you here that you can use just as a guide, or you can still lesson plans. That's why they're here. Now, because I'm trying to talk really, really fast.
Don't take your time.
Did you want me to show something on that slide?
I'm sorry,
Did
no.
you want to see something on that website?
No, I'm ready to. The last thing I want to show you is we worked with our grad students this summer. As you know, we started an MAT program at LR, and we spent some time working with them on differentiating their lesson plans because we have that same expectation of them. And so I have an example of from one of our students in the master's program, and we'll watch just a few minutes of it. But he is really interested in history, and this is how he applied the differentiation techniques to a history social studies